So it's now that it's July, it's time to do my Fighter of the Card roundup for the events in June, and also to talk to you about sort of MMA in general and what my feelings are. And I'll start with that, and I'll end with that as well. But I'm going to start by talking about the big Reebok thing, which was a deal that was sort of coming around last time, and I'd heard a little bit about it, but not enough to comment on it. And I've heard a little bit more about it now, and I do feel the need to comment on this because I kind of don't like it. What the UFC have done as an institution is basically have one sponsor for fight gear when it comes down to the things that their fighters have to wear during their matches. It's a fighter uniform, basically. They call it a kit, but it is a fighter uniform. Which on the grounds of it sounds, okay, I suppose. The problem is twofold. First, the kit is not, as far as I'm concerned, fit for purpose. And the reason for that is they all look the same. They're all very, very basic, sort of plain colour, basically, with their own names written on them, and a picture of the octagon or something like that in it. And I think they've got different... I think they have a range of maybe 3 colours that they can choose from. The champions have to wear a champion colour, and I think maybe it's also done by weight classes, so the writing is a different colour for each weight class or something like that. It's not very aesthetically pleasing, shall we say, I don't think. I also think that it's going to cause problems financially for some of the fighters. You see, a lot of fighters generate their extra revenue from sponsorship, and sponsorship means that they have to in some way carry their the brands that give them money, and the way they have always done that previously is to advertise them on what they're wearing. So they basically are coming in as walking adverts. This is not only good because it makes them extra money, which they deserve, considering the institution does not pay them enough for what they do, but it also allows their shirts to be different, incredible designs, and everybody wants to buy the different designs, and you can create a different design for each match, etc, etc, etc. It's a big money-making thing for the clothing brands as well. Who is going to want to buy the one shirt of their fighter which only has one picture on it and his name down the side? That's it. And it doesn't seem to change. I don't know if they're going to, bring out different things, but I would doubt it with the size of their roster. So it's made them a little uniform. They're maybe doing this because they're getting a lot of money from this single sponsor, and it's a way for them to create sponsorship money. They may also be doing it because they want to streamline the sport a little bit. The difficulty here is that they are under the impression that it is the brand that sells and not the fighters. And I think they've already proven, as we have sort of said, that actually it's not just a case of the brand. Sure, the brand's a big thing, but if it was a case of brand only, then they would not be able to saturate the market by bringing out more of their brand. And what they've done is they've saturated the market. And hopefully, if they are, doing their proper statistical reviews, they'll know that. So I think this is a bad idea for them, personally, because now all the fighters look exactly the same, and they're losing money in terms of sales for what they're wearing, clothes sales. They're losing money themselves. It's probably going to eventually drive them towards unionisation, just so that they can have some say in something that they do. I mean, whatever next. Now they can not only fight elsewhere. They have to fight in one place. They're also restricted on exactly what they wear, and it's the same as everybody else. And with a lot of low, no-named fighters, it seems a bit silly to make them a uniform that they may not be using for very long, for a start. And secondly, how the hell are the spectators supposed to know who is who if they're not really following that fighter? Because of course people don't follow fighters these days, do they? They only care about the brand. And that is the big mistake I think they're making. They've already done it, and I don't know what the fallout's going to be yet. It's coming around this month, so we'll soon see. I'm going to now move on to the fighters of the card. And, you know, it was a tough one for the first event that happened. This was UFN 68, and it was in New Orleans, and I dithered. Was I going to give it to Brian Ortega or Dustin Poirier? Now, Brian Ortega, he took three rounds to finish. Dustin Poirier was fighting at a catchweight, and he won in the first round. So at the end of the day, on skill alone, I'm going to give it to Dustin Poirier. The next event, where are we? Was UFC 188, and there is clearly only one person who deserves this, and this was the new champion, Fabricio Verdum, who a lot of us actually thought, you know, we're not too surprised that he won. That he won the method he did win in by choking the third was a little bit of a surprise, but there we are. I will also say that I'm a little bit disappointed to see Gilbert Melendez defeated again, but it was a split decision. It's not actually one I've watched that, so I'm not sure if that's a good decision, a good call or not. But to me, he's really had a rough deal of it, to be honest. The next one, that was on June the 13th. The next one was on June the 20th, and this was UFN 69. This was in Europe. It was in Germany, in Berlin, and do you know, I don't know really. I don't know. I think the head kick was quite interesting from Merbeck. I think the ninja choke was quite interesting, and that was from Arnold Allen. But I wasn't interested in any of the upper card, because both of those are on the preliminary. I think I might give it to Merbeck. So Merbeck Tasimov, he gets fighter of the card there. The final event happened on the 27th. That was back in Florida, back in the US, and that was Fight Night 70. And where are we? I'll tell you why I'm giving my fighter of the card to Lorenz Larkin and not Yoel Romero. So Lorenz Larkin, he did very well, and to me it was between him and Yoel Romero, who was on the top as to who to give the Fighter of the Card award to. Yoel Romero spoilt what was a fantastic win against a very high-profile opponent. He actually stopped Lyoto, and then he ruined things by sort of giving a bit of a rant afterwards. Now, he thanked God, and then he basically showed his how should we say this? He showed that he was probably against gay marriage, which has just been passed legally in the US. Now, do I think that this means that all Christians should be, shut up? No, because most of them don't say anything else inflammatory. And the thing that Yoel has to understand is that, it's okay thanking God, but it's not okay really to say anything else. Because it's inappropriate, really. So I think for that reason, I'm saying, not going to support that. However, I'm equally not going to support the institutional line, which from White, his personal opinion, I don't think he'll sort of get that passed through the exec and into any sort of fighter policy, is that, basically if you have faith, you should just shut up about it and not say a word, because nobody wants to hear that. Not that he has ever known what his watchers, what the people who watch his product actually want, because if he did and he listened to us, the UFC would look slightly different. I think the other thing you must remember is that Remero was coming off a moment where he was absolutely hyper, and his English isn't good. I have ranted before about fighters who are at championship level who don't bother to speak English. It may not be their first language, but they ought to learn it, simply because most of the people that watch their stuff regularly are English speakers, and we don't necessarily want to hear things through the translator. So it's good that Yoel is moving up and he's speaking English. His English is, however, broken, and his vocabulary is probably very limited, which means if he's trying to make a point, it's likely to be extremely blunt, and it's a little bit dicey, isn't it, to sort of make a point about that, which is a sensitive issue if you don't have the full vocab. So I think we should forget what happened after, and ignore both parties. Ignore what Yoel said and ignore what Dana White said, and hope that we can just continue as it is.